Good. Okay, well, thanks for the KTN for inviting me along to speak to you today. I'm from the National Centre for Food Manufacturing, which is a part of the University of Lincoln. I'm going to tell you a bit more about where I come from and my background shortly. What I want to do is do a quick introduction to myself first. We're then going to have a quick 30-second virtual tour of where I work, because that gives you a view of where I'm coming from, really. With this, and then we're going to get into the topic of the talk, which is around the food industry needs, particularly aimed around engineering needs. And obviously the food industry is very diverse, whether it's a ready meals company or packing potatoes or fizzy drinks or whatever. So it's very difficult for me to quantify the needs for each of those sections of the food industry. So what I've tried to do is to generalise the needs of the industry as a whole, and I've done that under three topic headings. The first one is the food industry in general needs and wants to become more flexible and responsive. That will then help the food industry to serve its customers better and cheaper, more effectively. So we'll do a bit around that. I'm then going to do a bit on what I've called perfect process control. Food industry generates a lot of waste, and a high proportion of that waste is down to a lack of control within the processes. And by improving process control within the food industry, waste will reduce, cost will reduce, and so on. So we'll go through that. Low-cost manufacturing, again, looking at methods of reducing the cost of the manufacturing process, taking a food from the farm gate and getting it into a fit state to get it out to a consumer. And then hopefully be time for questions. First one on here is an introduction to me. I work for the University of Lincoln, as I've said. I've worked for them now for about nearly 7 years now. Prior to that, I've always managed food factories. So I've made Kingsmill bread for a living. I've made fresh cream cakes for Tesco. I've made coleslaw. So various biscuits for Marks and Spencer. So I've managed factories that are ingrained in this food supply chain. And as a result of my experience, that's why the university recruited me, because they wanted to build the National Centre for Food Manufacturing. And I helped design and brought all of that project together. Okay, so we're based, quick virtual tour now, we're based at Holbeach, which is in the south of Lincolnshire, quite a big agricultural area, as you'll appreciate. But also near us are based there. I saw some statistics recently which says that 30% of the UK's food passes within 50 miles of my place. Now some of that might just be on the A1 on its way up here. It might well be just driving through the area. But quite a lot of the food stops off in our area, and I'm always amazed at the diversity of the food that's managed through factories in the area of the centre. So for example, something like 80% of all the garlic, which is imported from China and so on, comes here and then goes out to the retailers. Pineapples, something like 60% of all the pineapples, fresh pineapple in the UK, passes through packing processes here. So it might come from South America on a ship, comes to this area, gets its Sainsbury's label put on it, or its Marks and Spencer's label put on it, gets inspected and then sent out. So an awful lot of food manufacturing goes on in this area. As you'd expect for a National Centre for Food Manufacturing, we've got expertise in all sorts of different areas. Obviously the technical aspects of food manufacture, new product development, manufacturing, which is mainly my bit, and training and continuing professional development. But we also, because we're part of a bigger university, we also engage with the engineering faculty. Computer vision is well represented in the university on the main campus. Just recently, just give an example, we have just recently recruited a professor who is an expert, a world expert in crystallization processes. When he thought he was coming to the university, he thought he was going to be working in the pharmaceutical sector. As soon as he landed, we got hold of him, and we've now introduced him into British sugar, freezer companies, chocolate companies, all of whom are quite interested in crystallization as part of the process. So we're quite quite diverse in our areas. So this is the building that opened a couple of years ago. We've got a second building which contains all the science facilities. But this basically is a full-on food factory that's fully equipped with full-scale equipment. So it's our test bed, it's our research area, but it's also where we do our training and education. Inevitably, we've got a sensory suite. We don't forget at Holbeach that the stuff we're playing with actually has to be consumed at some stage. So we test everything that we do through there. It's amazing. You employ a professional photographer and they can't even hold the camera straight when you take a picture. So it's our micro lab, and obviously a lot of our work is around shelf life extensions, the microbiological side of food supply. Tilted the other way now. Chemistry laboratory. This laboratory got quite busy recently during the horse meat scandal, as you can imagine. Companies wanted to talk to us about maybe doing a bit of testing on their product before they went to see anyone in authority. So we did a bit of testing there. And we've also got excellent food processing facilities. This is a bit of a research area for food processing. We've also got that full-on factory, as I said, down at the moment. So that's a bit of a virtual tour of where I work and the facilities we've developed. One thing I'll say before I move on to this slide is what's unique about Holbeach is that we are a university department, but we have no full-time students. All of our students work for food companies and come to us. So currently, I was racking my brain while I was sat down at the back there. Currently I've got a student that works for Caledonian Foods up in this neck of the woods. And also got, I think, a couple of students currently that are working for Pinnies, who do smoked salmon and that sort of stuff up here. So we're a national centre. I've also got students who work for Ginsters, Pasties down in Cornwall, and so we're fairly nationwide from that point of view. So we have no full-time students, but that means that the work of Holbeach, the work of the National Centre, is intimately linked with the food industry that we serve, because our students are working out there, we're talking to them as well as their bosses, as well as their companies, to get all of their research and development thoughts at times, as well as their training and education needs. Okay, food industry needs. First things for the food industry, so a few statements really. Food industry definitely driven by the consumer and the retailer, and that keeps coming back, especially in terms of the flexible and responsive requirements of the industry that I'll go into in a bit. Food market has a huge variety. I'm always amazed when I go around a retail outlet in the UK is, just how many types of digestive biscuit do you need? There are just 20 different types of digestive biscuit on sale in even a medium-sized retail outlet. Never mind getting into the pizza aisle or the snack food aisle, just a huge variety of different products there. UK market is very complex in terms of product and process, mainly caused by that huge variety really. If you're a manufacturing operation and you've got to produce a variety of different pizzas, one thing's for sure is that your production process is going to be less efficient because you're going to have to stop and change over on occasions, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment. And the UK food industry is able to continue to grow. It's one of the statements of fact really. The food industry is fairly recession-proof. So since 2008, when everything hit the fan from an economic point of view, the food industry has been robust, as it always is through recessions. People have to eat. They might change what they eat, but they still have to eat. So food industry is still in a good position financially, still doing a good job. Still growing, unlike some sectors of the industry, some sectors of the UK economy. Okay, let's go on to this flexible and responsive element of the food industry. And as I say, it doesn't matter whether you're manufacturing snack foods or ready meals or you're packing potatoes. All manufacturers, all packers of product will need to be flexible and responsive. One of the main reasons for this is that the retailers are trying to minimise their costs by reducing their order delivery cycle, as it's called. The retailers want to place their orders for their food products as late as possible in order to make sure that they've got just enough on the shelves but not too much. retailers are very sensitive to what they call in-store wastage, where they've bought something off of a manufacturer, it sits on the shelf, it runs out of shelf life, they throw it away. And you can, and I've done work at the back of a retail store where you look at the reasons why food at the back of a retail store is in the skip. The vast majority of that food is because it's run out of date. They try all sorts of techniques, don't they, with the buy it now while it's still fresh, discounted yellow stickers going on, and people following the person with the yellow sticker gun around the store, making sure as soon as the yellow sticker goes on, they pick it up. So all sorts of techniques to reduce the size of their bins at the back, but they've still got a problem now. So in order to do that, what they do is place their orders as late as possible. That means that factories have less time to respond. The other counter to this is that the manufacturers in the food industry have a very high demand put on them for what's called on-time in full, which is when a retailer places an order, even though they give you the order very late, they still expect you to be on time with your delivery, and you deliver everything that they've asked for. So that in itself is a very high demand on the manufacturing processes, and this is where engineering can start to think about coming up with some new responses to try and make sure that food manufacturers can deliver that fantastic on-time in full delivery, given a very late order lead time. So, on-time in full is a KPI, a key performance indicator for all food manufacturers to all retailers. In fact, I was in the head office of Asda in Leeds not so long back, and in their reception area they've got 2 big plasma screens. One of the plasma screens is the best 10 on-time in full delivery performers of that week. So you've got Procter & Gamble, all the big companies tend to be there. But unfortunately, the screen next door is of the bottom 10 delivery performance. So if you have failed to deliver to Asda, your name goes on the right-hand screen, which means that every visitor to Asda knows that you failed to deliver to Asda. You were only 95% this week. Typical performance of this KPI for most food companies is 99.5%. If you fall below that, you get called into their head office and get asked what's going on. So very high performance required. And that means that the food supply industry, very disciplined towards this on-time in full, but given less and less notice to do it. They need flexible and responsive engineering solutions in their factories to square that particular circle. And obviously, going alongside this is a whole flow of information that has to go. So how is that order received? How is that transmitted into works orders to go onto the shop floor? All of that data is needed to be controlled in a controlled way. Flexible and responsive still. Looking at product variety then, there's obviously a huge variety of SKUs, as I've already pointed out. SKU stands for stock keeping unit, it's a retail term, but it means that every one of those digested biscuits will be a different SKU, a different stock keeping unit. This leads to complexity of manufacturing and distribution. Product changeovers cause major downtime. Because certainly in the fresh food industry, in the chilled food industry, most manufacturers will have a strategy in their manufacturing process to try and minimise the number of changeovers that they're doing. But given that they don't know what the order is, quite often they're manufacturing without an order. They're making fresh food and they don't really know what they're going to sell yet. So the one approach that's quite often taken is that the planning department within a food manufacturer will guess how much Tesco want, which is okay if everything's nice and steady. But obviously it only takes the sun to shine. If I was an ice cream manufacturer in the UK of late, I guess they're all working very hard at the moment because ice cream sales, fizzy pop sales, anything to do with barbecues, the sales of those items will be huge. On the other hand, if I was making soup for a living, the recent good weather will have caused my orders to drop, and I'll have had a factory sat around doing nothing because no one wants any soup at the moment. So you can imagine the sort of things that can go on with all of this. And if I on my soup production line make 5 different types of soup in any one production day, I don't know how much of any of that I've got to make before the order comes in. So I've got to make some changeover, make some more changeover. That was a traditional approach in the short shelf life food industry, so fresh cream cakes, chilled products, those sorts of things. But now I've noticed in talking with longer shelf life food manufacturers, they're adopting a similar approach. I spoke to a big cannery operation a couple of months back, who always used to have the manufacturing strategy is that, oh well, we'll run a week on Sainsbury's baked beans, we'll then change over and do Tesco baked beans for a week, we'll then change over, and because they're all different recipes with different labelling requirements, packaging requirements and so on. We'll then do Tesco, we'll then do Asda, we'll then have a look, maybe do some own brand stuff, or do some Aldi or something like that. And they used to, literally, their planning was, we'll have a week on this, a week on that, a week on this. They caught a cold because one of their companies wanted to change the formulation of the baked beans. They wanted lower salt in the baked beans, and as a result the company had 20,000 pallets of baked beans that it couldn't sell. It had made them, it had taken a guess, it had risked it in order to get some manufacturing efficiency, and got caught with the stock effectively that it couldn't sell. So as a result of that, even companies that have longer shelf life, so frozen food companies, dried food companies, canned companies and so on, even those companies now are adopting a much shorter time horizon for their manufacturing. So that cannery operation making those baked beans now doesn't do a whole day on one variety of baked beans. It will do less than a day, so it will be changing over less than a day. If I took you to a chill food operation, virtually every production line will make every product every day. Some will do even more than that. I used to manage, as I mentioned earlier, I used to manage a fresh cream cake operation where the need was, the first vehicle actually to come up to Scotland from my factory, first vehicle left at 8 o'clock in the morning. The order from the retailer, which happened to be Tesco at the time, the order from the retailer didn't arrive at my factory until 8:30. So the vehicle had to leave to get its on time in full, had to leave before the order arrived. We solved that conundrum. But what that meant was every production line in my factory had to change over and make every product twice every day, because I didn't know what I was doing, couldn't make too much, otherwise I would have wasted it. So very, very difficult. This hits this thing called OEE, Overall Equipment Effectiveness. So anything that engineering solutions can come up with that can improve product changeovers, make product changeovers less of a downtime, allow a machine to move quickly from one product variety to another product variety is great. And engineering solutions in there will be welcomed by the food industry. Manufacturing waste is high. Some factories struggle with just the complexity. I used to manage a pizza company. We had 4 different types of cheddar cheese. Why do you need 4 different types of cheddar? That's what the customer wanted. That's what the consumer wanted. So we ended up very complex, but just the information flow and the way of tracing all of those raw materials through the production process is an engineering solution waiting to happen. And indeed on production scheduling. Okay, production flexibility strategies then. What we're looking for is rapid changeovers, flexible machinery, easy to operate and control. And in terms of longer term flexibility, there's been a tendency in the food industry, because of this up and down nature of the business, where ice cream manufacturers are busy at the moment, soup manufacturers aren't. There's been a tendency in the food industry to casualise the labour. So a lot of food companies now operate with casual labour. It might be there one day, not required the next day, might be back in the third day, out again the fourth day. That means that quite often the machines, the technology, the engineering that's going on inside that food factory is being operated by people that aren't fully trained, aren't fully au fait with the technology that they're around.
So anything that can be done around development of intuitive, sorry, I've used a few of these, haven't I? I didn't realise. HMIs, that's a human-machine interface, a control panel, a touch screen or whatever's being used to control some machinery. Anything that can be done to improve the intuitivity of that, so that someone is not 100% familiar with it can make the machine work effectively. That's a great thing that can happen out of this course. Because food factories tend to be quite busy places, in order to make any money out of food, your factory has got to be full or virtually full. You've got to be really pushing it at the walls in terms of the capacity of the factory to make money. That means that factories, when it comes to changing machines, installing machines, maintaining machines, the factory needs this tendency towards what I've always called easy in, easy out machinery. So machinery that doesn't require you to take the roof off of the factory to put the machine in. So often a lot of engineering solutions have gone down the route of the agri-industry, which has developed bigger and bigger tractors to become more efficient. Food industry, a lot of engineering companies have developed bigger and bigger machines to become more efficient. Trouble is that getting those machines into tight spots in factories is quite tricky. Okay, perfect process control. Obviously, anything that can improve yield, reduce waste and so on, in terms of process control is going to be welcomed by the food companies. Absolutely in terms of technical compliance. If you've got process control, if you've got a cooking process and you need to ensure that the cooking process is thorough in order to make sure the food is safe, then you need perfect process control to make sure you don't make any mistakes in terms of food safety and traceability, and any new sensors developed around being able to detect and control processes, detect problems and control processes would be welcome. Products are quite often controlled in this dynamic environment, as I've said, with the on-time, in-full, and product quality attributes of the business are not satisfied because of a processing issue with the food. So it would only take a bread bakery to burn the bread. All of a sudden they've got no bread to load on the lorry that's got to leave now in order to meet this on time in full. So perfect process control can help a lot there. Obviously a need for new types of sensor to be able to control this food safety and compliance aspect. And then in terms of low-cost manufacturing, whole thing around automation. Food companies are looking to automate all the time to reduce their reliance on manual inputs. But it must be carried out in a way that maintains that flexibility and responsiveness. Food companies have shown themselves to be reluctant to invest in hard automation, in flexible automation. So that needs to be there. There's a whole thing around the cost of ownership of new machinery and automatic systems. It's not so much about the cost of the machine, it's about the cost of the ownership of that machine. So the purchase price is becoming less significant to food manufacturers now. It's about how much it costs them in terms of not only the purchase price, but the maintenance of it, the hygiene of it, how much energy does it use, all of those things. And here's an interesting one that came up in a project I was on, which is about hygienic design of machines. So designing food machinery that's hygienic, you'd think, okay, that addresses the food safety concerns of the food manufacturer. But quite often, if you've got a machine that's well designed, hygienically designed, not only will it improve food safety in terms of the output of that machine, but also if the machine is easy to clean, that means it's quick to clean. And quite often, especially in a complex environment where you've got multiple SKUs, multiple different products going down one production line, the need to stop the machine to clean it, to move from, I don't know, tomato soup to onion soup or whatever it might be,
to change over from one to the other. The cleaning cycle, if the machine is well designed hygienically, that cleaning cycle can reduce. So all of a sudden, the manufacturing efficiency, that OEE, can go up because the machine can manufacture for longer and be stood still being changed over or cleaned for less. Quite a lot of companies that I work with just gradually put pressure on their hygiene operations all the time, so that now a factory that a few years ago would take 5 or 6 hours to clean a machine, clean a production line, to make it ready for the next production run, are doing that in 1-2 hours now at the end of the line. And the other aspect of this is the whole thing around allergens. So food products that are allergens, if you're going to have allergens in your production process, if you've got a hygienically designed machine, it means you can clean those allergens out and get onto a non-allergen product. You'll have all seen food products with the disclaimer that says made in a factory that also handles nuts. That's because they're not absolutely sure that their hygienic design is good enough.
2, 3, 1.
Yes, I was moving on. Okay, low-cost manufacture, last one. Obviously, any manufacturing business is interested in reducing cost of manufacture, particularly for food companies. Energy consumption is a big agenda item for them. Huge amounts of energy consumed in food manufacturing, especially in refrigeration systems, which are eaters of electricity, it would appear. And food packaging systems, reduction of the quantity of packaging in a food product, always worth working around. And if you can do that without sacrificing shelf appeal or product safety, then that's it. Okay, so that's me done. What I've tried to do, obviously give you a quick tour of my place, but I've tried to generalise within the food industry this need for flexible and responsive, perfect process control and low-cost manufacturing. And I hope what I've done is to try and give you some idea of the pressures in the industry and therefore some of the solutions that engineering solutions are going to try and solve or help solve. Okay, thank you.